Season 13. They nerfed Sombra Seed by the Widow Mythic, and now Widow is f***ing everywhere with no one to shut her down. But what if I told you that you don't need to play Widowmaker to carry games? What if I told you that there's another hero that's been strong for a while now, but nobody is talking about them? You would think that as you go up the ranks, the best picks are the heroes with the highest skill ceiling. Well, there's one hero proving that wrong. Reaper dominated the leaderboards last season despite being such a simple hero. But when you think of Reaper, this might come to mind. Or this. Or even this. If you want to avoid playing like that and learn to carry games on Reaper, you need to understand these three things. Using cover to close distance, engagement timing, and target priority. We all know Reaper is a close range hero, but I see so many players making the mistake of spamming their shotguns from 100 miles away. This reveals your position, takes away your element of surprise, and it makes it impossible to win trades. What we want to do instead is close the distance and play in our effective range, but we need to do that by using cover. Using cover allows you to close the distance without getting your Wraith form forced, so you still have an escape option when fighting. If you don't use cover, your form gets forced, which makes it difficult to stay in the fight or even engage to begin with. One of the best uses of cover is teleporting from cover to cover, closing the distance quickly without being seen and still having your form to escape after getting a kill or fighting. You can also use corners to choose when you want to peek, which is useful for both fighting and scouting. Scouting is simply gathering information on the enemy team, like their comp and where they are, which is very helpful for Reaper, especially when it comes to target priority. Target priority is important on Reaper because you usually have a short window of time to take the fight and make an impact before you get forced out. The higher you go up in rank, the shorter that window is, so the better your timing and target focus needs to be. You can usually get away with targeting the supports by flanking. This will either get you a kill on the support or will allow your team to push forward and kill the enemy tank since they're not being healed. If flanking the supports isn't working, you can shift your focus onto the enemy tank or look for isolated targets to teleport on. The frontline brawl style of Reaper works best when your entire team can play as one unit. If you're on the flank, you need to turn around and check on your team to see if they're ready to engage at the same time as you. Timing ties everything together. Go too early and you're either dead or forced to Wraith form before your team is ready. Go too late and well, it's too late. Your team's fucking dead. So when is the right time to engage? It's usually as your team is walking up and starting the fight, or as they're nearby and ready to engage as you do. Of course, there are some exceptions, like if you find an isolated target out of position for an easy kill in between fights. Let's condense this. Close the distance on the right target at the right time. Here's some bonus tips from a champion Reaper player. Time to look at some replays. We're going to start with an easy example. Here's Darkcoat, our diamond Reaper player. His team has just lost a point. What do you think Darkcoat should do in this situation? I'm going to zoom out, quickly have a look at where the teams are, have a look at the map, and I want to ask you, what should he do here? 3, 2, 1. The simple answer is he just needs to set up for the next fight. His team is still coming back from spawn, his cast is still respawning. All he needs to do is he needs to be patient and needs to set up in a position where he'll be able to close the distance. The fight is probably going to take place when the cart is around here because it's a very difficult choke to get into and it favours our Reaper, so he can start playing his corners and he can play at close range. But let's see what Darkcoat does instead. Just a quick reminder that I offer both free and private coaching through my Discord server, link in the description. So what happened was, he walked up into a mercy pocketed torb whilst his team was still respawning. He gets flashed by the cast who was nearby and he died. Darkcoat actually had problems with all three fundamentals that we mentioned earlier. He was way too close to the enemy team too early on, which allows him to get poked out before the fight begins. He engaged way too early whilst his team is still in spawn, and finally he decides to go for a mercy pocketed torb who has all of his cooldowns and who has his team nearby, as we saw the cash flash our Reaper, and our Reaper died. So all three things we made a mistake with, and all we needed to do really was have some patience, set up and wait for the fight to take place. So this final fight on defense for Darkcoat is actually a good opportunity to explain the only two Reaper mechanics you need to know. The first mechanic we'll see on this cast. Great anti-nade from the Ana. You'll see that Darkcoat's playing in a great position around the corner. He's able to walk in now onto the cast, and the general area he's aiming at with the cast is the chest because he's not close enough. If you're kind of in this kind of range, of course you can go for the head, but when you're at this kind of medium range, approaching close range, you really want to aim for the neck or the chest area just so that you can control Reaper's spread. What I really want to zoom in on is where he fights the Torb here, and I want to focus on something called trigger discipline. And trigger discipline is simply just making sure that you know your crosshair is on the enemy before you fire. So we'll watch it once in normal speed where he fights this Torb, and so as you can see, he misses two what should be simple shots on the Torb, and I want to go back and I want to kind of watch it in slow motion to be able to explain it. So what we want to be paying attention to here is his trigger discipline, and one thing I want you to pay attention is to how there's no delay in between his shots. His shots go bam, 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 bam in the typical kind of Reaper fire rate, in a way that it's almost like he's holding down the button. So the Torb approaches him, we get one decent shot on him, one great shot on him, and as you can see, as if he's holding down the button, he doesn't get time to adjust to the Torb's movement. And finally, he aims to the right in the direction that the Torb strafed, but he doesn't make an adjustment. Right, there's no delay in between his shots, and if he would have had a bit more trigger discipline, if he would have taken a bit more time to line up his shots, he probably kills the Torb there and has a much bigger impact in this fight. This is the last fight we'll be looking at for Darko, and I'd like to use it to highlight a couple of mistakes that he makes. So he teleports onto the Ana. I think this is fine, but as you can see, he walks out into open space. He teleports onto the Ana, he walks out, and there's actually 4 different angles that I can cover him from here. Walks out, he gets slept, and then he walks back. So what I would have liked us to do here instead is really just try and play around here and get an angle behind them, because as your team pushes forward with the player advantage that you have, the enemy Ana, she wants to walk back, she wants to play in a safe space. This is where you're going to catch her as Reaper. Play around these corners, allowing you to evade the sleep and still have an impact. So we go back, so we've covered the first mistake. Then the Torb ult comes out, and our Juno ult comes out. As soon as you see a Juno ult, fucking play in that Juno ult. This shit is so OP, you have to be playing in this Juno ult. It means if the ball slams on you here, he's just going to get melted instantly, or you're going to get him incredibly low so he can't have an impact on the fight, and it will probably lead to you taking the point. So another mistake is not playing in our Juno Ray. Here I think is again a perfect opportunity. Whilst we're standing here, we can go for a TP here and again close the distance on this Ana, because she's alone, she's split from her team. You can see our Sigma's putting out some pressure, and we need to take advantage of that. What do we do instead? We walk up onto the Torb, we fire from very far away, so now we're alerting the enemy team to our position. Then we walk through the Torb ult, we walk into open space where it's just way too easy for the Torb to kill us. Like, the Torb absolutely just shits on us. So let's recap the mistakes. Although we had decent timing, we failed to close the distance and use cover, as well as poor target priority, missing out on multiple chances to kill the Ana and give our team a big advantage. So now we're going to focus on a Platinum Reaper, and I want to look at his Death Blossoms in particular. So he's doing a great job of standing in his Juno Ray and damaging the Rein. The Rein is getting way too aggressive, and it looks like we're going to pick up the kill here. And so what we do is we Death Blossom the Mercy who's going for the res and who is in Valk. And the reason why this works so well as a Death Blossom, even though he dies afterwards, is because he's able to not only stop the res, he's able to cancel the Valk. And with that Death Blossom, he's able to take 2 people down, and his team eventually wins the fight. So it goes to show Death Blossom can be quite useful during the middle of a fight when cooldowns have been used and you need to get those crucial picks. If you found the video helpful so far, please like and subscribe because it will help the video reach more people. Now let's have a look at Darko's Death Blossom and why it doesn't work. So his Rein has just died, the Cass is high nooning, but they do have the tree on point. So he wraiths into the Cass, shoots the Cass, ults, and then he just gets instantly shit on. There are a few reasons why our Death Blossom didn't work here. Firstly, we Wraith in a straight line and then Death Blossom, so it makes it very telegraphed. Secondly, we went for a nanoed Cassidy, who has 2 forms of pocket, he has the Ana and the Mercy. And finally, we didn't do any cooldown tracking. So we Wraith in a straight line, we go for the nanoed Cass, and we Death Blossom, not knowing whether or not they have sleep and not knowing whether or not they have flashbang. We get flashed, we die instantly, and it's a complete waste of a Death Blossom. A good Death Blossom is unpredictable, goes for vulnerable targets, and is used when there aren't cooldowns to instantly shut it down, which is why the Death Blossom in the previous clip worked so well. So now we're going to have a look at a champion Reaper player called Havoc. This guy ended top 10 last season with Reaper, and if we look at this situation here, I want to ask you whether it reminds you of something we saw earlier. So if you look at the situation, his team has just won the fight and everyone is setting up for the next fight. What Havoc does is he takes a flank, he takes an angle, and he looks early to find an isolated target. And this might remind you of Darko's earlier, where he needed to wait for his team to be ready to fight, but he wanted to take a position where he could close the distance. Here it's acceptable for Havoc to walk out and fight because the Pharah is isolated. He catches the Pharah trying to have a setup of her own, he catches her, he starts fighting her, and he forces her out. And I want you to see the effects of this. So he forces out onto the Mega, then he forces it away from the Mega. So not only does Zavara have no movement cooldowns to get back in the fight, she needs to go and wait here and be able to heal up or find a health pack and then use her movement cooldowns to get back in the fight. Which means when the fight occurs, she won't have any movement cooldowns, or if she saves them, which she probably won't, that means she's going to be late to the fight. So Havoc here, just by taking a small angle, flanking, looking for an isolated target, has managed to force the Pharah out. And now I want us to see the further effects of this. So now we forced the Pharah out, and now we want to look for an engage. So he's going to teleport from cover to cover. He's going to walk up the stairs as his Zarya is fighting, and he's going to look for an engage. So he has to decide, do I go for the Brig or do I go for the Juno? And he realizes it's very easy for the Brig to escape and survive. She can hold shield, she can bash away as she does, whereas the Juno is a lot easier of a target. So he goes for the Juno, he kills the Juno, and although his team dies, he just demonstrates excellent Reaper fundamentals. Let's have a look at the next example. This next clip is one where Havoc gets all three fundamentals perfectly on point. So he sees the Pharah, and the key thing there is he sees the Pharah going this way. He sees the Pharah drop and he sees her moving this way. So what he decides to do is go for the flank to cut her off. So he walks around, he uses cover, and there we go. 2 shots to Pharah, incredible trigger discipline, staying close to cover, great target priority. And great timing as this team has just used the sim wall, which is when he decides to rotate for the Pharah. So another example here that's going to showcase his perfect timing and trigger discipline. So he sees the Pharah, decides not to shoot her. Sees that Ashe has just used her coach gun and has coach gun straight into him, because what did he do? He set up on an angle where he can play around corners. He has a short angle to cover the distance. He chose a target that was vulnerable because she didn't have her coach gun, and he manages to get the kill. And this is all perfect timing as his team, they're pushing the robot through here, they're really ready to take the fight. This is where the fight is happening. He takes advantage of the Ashe having no coach gun, and there's a perfect kill. And he almost gets 2 kills out of this, but the Pharah does get bubbled. So just like that, he's able to apply pressure at the right time, get the kill on the Ashe, and he's able to force the Pharah back. So now there's only 3 members of the enemy team left, and they're all bundled up together here. So it's going to be really easy for his team to clear them out and clear the point, as you'll see here. One final example from this map of Havoc demonstrating the 3 fundamentals. So he enters from cover, he's walking up, he sees his target of Zen, he goes in, his Zarya is able to drop onto the cart and start fighting. Again, playing in an enclosed space, making it difficult for the Pharah to push him. And you'll see that he walks out, he sees the Baptiste, he can afford to walk because he hears that the Pharah is ulting and not looking at him. He'll walk up and there we go, he finishes the kill. So almost entirely by himself, Havoc has eliminated the backline, and this is a champion level lobby, and he's done this all himself, and it's purely through the 3 fundamentals. So if we watch again, it's going to be great timing, right? Not only is he entering from kind of an unseen position, he's using this cover to close the distance on his target. He chooses a great target to go on, being the Zen, and this allows his Zarya, if you watch the rest of the fight, it allows his Zarya to walk in for free. And again, his positioning, excellent for the rest of the fight. The Pharah's gone, and there you go, he's able to walk in and kill this Baptiste. So honestly, perfect fundamentals here from Havoc, all 3 done perfectly, and it gets his team the fight win, and it's going to win his team the game. We're going to look at one more fight and see how Havoc is able to have an impact. So they've just used the Widow sights, and they've just used the window. So he's going to play inside, his team is going to kite inside so that they can live. And it looks like the Sig is going to push them here. He wraiths to dodge the rock. And then again, he's playing around the corner. He's not peeking too far because they have walls. And again, because Reaper is excellent at playing around corners. He gets the Sig to half HP. He rotates with his team. And he finds the Baptiste on his own. And that's going to be an easy kill for him. He goes to teleport onto the Torb. Great trigger discipline when fighting the Torb. He goes back for the mini. And keep an eye on his positioning here. He starts from the corner, the Torb decides to push him aggressively, and again, excellent trigger display. He's not holding down the button, he's making sure his cross is actually on the Torb every time he goes. So not only did he push the Sig back, he was able to rotate, find a pick onto the Baptiste, and then teleport, occupy the Torb, and get the kill on the Torb too. And remember, this is a champion lobby. He's playing against and with pro players. One last thing I want to highlight from the Torb's perspective is how good Havoc's movement is. You watch this, he's only landed 1 shot so far. Again, no shots, 1 shot. After about 6 or 7 bullets, he's only landed a few shots. And let's slow this down and look at why that is. So Havoc comes in, obviously you're going to get the shot on the teleporting Reaper, but how does Havoc manage to survive here? And you can see it's simple AD strafing. That's it, right? We're going to keep going, we're going to wait until he comes out of Wraith, and here again, AD strafing, AD strafing. So moving to the right, moving to the left in what's kind of an unpredictable pattern. Here you can see he does quite a long strafe into the wall. That's something called wall licking, where you continuously move into the wall to be unpredictable, and that's how Havoc is able to net the kill. It's a very good use of AD strafing. And so this is one element of Reaper again that doesn't require crazy mechanics. It's just thinking about your movement and thinking about how to make it harder for the opponent to kill you. So we've been able to see Havoc demonstrate excellent Reaper fundamentals, and it goes to show you don't need any crazy mechanics, you don't need to be the best player in the world, you really need to understand the Reaper fundamentals and be able to apply them consistently to every single game that you play. Thank you for watching. Let me know which fundamental you'll be working on, or just let me know your favourite Reaper skin in the comments below. See you in the next video.